Alright, so we're going to continue modeling our head. I spent a little bit of time just refining my character here. So I finished him up. This is my wireframe with some Turbo Smooth on. This is it without. So I'll kind of show you what he looks like from the front. And this is what he looks like from the side. So let's take a look at them. So I spent a little bit of time and just kind of flushed out the nice concentric circles around my eyes here. They all go through above the nose. We got these ones going over the brows and all that. And then we have some nice circles going around the mouth, should help deform it quite a bit. And then all of these lips and everything else, they're all nice concentric circles as well. They pinch in here quite a bit, which is what you want from the mouth. And then I went through and just finished up the chin. Gave him a bit of a square kind of chin. Right, gave him the ridge on the eyes here. And then just went through and just kind of finished the head. Some of this stuff isn't that great, but I'm going to cover it in hair, so I'm not too worried about it right now. Some of this stuff could get smoothed out as well. It's not perfect, but we'll continue from here. So if I add a mesh smooth on there, you'll see he looks nice and clean. And this is what working in quads will get you. You get really nice clean surface. You start doing lots of triangles or 5-6-sided polygons, you can get a lot of weird abnormalities, and that's definitely not what you want. So we're going to take this guy into Mudbox eventually, and so you want him to be as clean as possible before you get there, because you're going to need to smooth out that detail. One of the other things you might notice is a lot of my details here around the face, mouth, nose, just this general area here, they're all fairly even on their size of like polygons. Obviously some of them are smaller and tighter areas and whatnot, but I don't have like a million circles around the eyes or like too many around the mouth. They're more or less well kind of separated, and the reason for that is when we actually subdivide this guy in Mudbox is we'll get a lot of equal detail that we can paint in on. So keep that in mind. Make sure your stuff is nice and clean. It's something I'm going to be marking on as well. So make sure that your polygons are well separated. You really thought it through, like where the detail needs to be, and all that kind of stuff. So let's continue from there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make some facial hair for him. So in my concept here we have he's got a beard and some hair up on the top, and then we'll add some horns as well, and then we'll move on to the ears probably in another tutorial. So I like to model my hair separately, especially at this point when we're going to be going into Mudbox, just that way I can move it around without having to worry about the face. I can hide, unhide it, that kind of stuff. When we do our final low poly after Mudbox is complete, then it'll just be one solid mesh. But for now I'm going to do a separate mesh for him. So I've taken down the smoothing groups, or taken off the smoothing groups on this guy, just mainly so you can kind of see how he breaks down a little easier. It's easy enough just to add a smooth back on him and clean him up, so I'll show you what that looks like. Do that, and then one smoothing group. So that's kind of what our low poly will look like, more or less. Right, we'll decide where to add detail and stuff from then. Anyways, I kind of like working in this faceted mode. So let's go from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the beard and the hair, and the easiest way to do that is just kind of select the polygons that I want off of the head and then edit them from there. So I'm going to kind of take a look here and see what I need. So I'll need these guys here for my beard. Again, it's just kind of more or less of what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and select all that. Select all this back here. So I should have that selected. Well, actually, we'll cut that out, so that's all right. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to detach these these faces, so I'm going to hit detach. But I don't want to actually lose them from the head, so I'm going to detach as clone. That'll just make me a new duplicate version of them. So now when I select them, it'll just be those guys. I'm just going to throw black material on them, just so they're separated. Right now they're exactly over top of my other mesh, so they'll kind of fight with that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this up. So we see here we have a whole bunch of just crazy looking quads and leftover stuff like that. So I'm just going to clean this up. So I'm just going to connect a couple of these. Just going to delete these verts here. And might even kind of just do that. Again, not too worried about being clean right now. We'll clean it up in due time. So let's take a look at what we need over here. So I'm going to just make that guy see-through and this guy see-through. A little confusing. But let me see here. We're going to want this guy. I'm just probably going to move down for now. This I guess I didn't really need. Well, yeah, I'm going to delete these. We'll just assume those hairs are sticking out as opposed to actually going along his face right now. Maybe we do want like a bit of an edge. Hard to say sometimes. Sometimes you got to play around, get what you want. So I'm just going to cut that somewhere along there. Again, really messy, but that's okay for now. And then these guys here, I probably just want to something like that. All right, there we go. So let's just name this guy here. Where are you? Hair. So I move this around a little bit, so I just gotta make sure, I'm just gonna probably put it back to where he was for now. All right, so let's take a look at this model on its own right now. There's some, good qualities about it. There's some good quads going on, but then we also have created a lot of these triangle areas here, so we want to make sure we get rid of that as much as possible. So I'm just going to go through and just start cleaning up some of this, and just kind of considering, what detail I'll need. Probably want some of that. Maybe I do want them down here. Sometimes this takes a little bit of playing with. Maybe I just get rid of these guys. I probably don't need them too tight. Actually, why don't I just do this? There we go. Quads. And let's do this guy as well. So we probably want that cutting through here. Probably don't need all this right now. Let's think about where this is going to go. So Yeah, we don't want that. That's a terrible idea. Yeah, I'll probably do something like that. I might just leave these for now, and then once I extrude them, I'll have a better idea of where those go. So I'm going to throw an extrude on here. I'm going to select all my faces. I'm going to select extrude, and it's going to go really crazy right now, but that's okay. I'm going to go to local normal on this little dialog that pops up, and I'm going to bring this right down. I just want it out a little bit, not too much. I want to do a lot of the modeling myself. So one of the problems that we have when we use extrude is that you get polys on the inside here. So I'm just going to go through and delete those. So from my top viewport, I'm going to select all these guys, deselect that so I only have the ones on the inside selected. I'm going to use my scale tool to scale these. Oh, that's not what I want. Make sure you have it set on this guy here. That just uses the center of them all. So I'm going to scale that down. Not sure why that's... Oh, sorry. I have... it's freaking out on me. I have my edge constraint still on. I'm going to turn that to none. And I'm going to just scale these down so they're nice and flat. I'm going to zoom in here and just move this in so it's actually in the center. And I'm just going to delete that. And I'm going to apply a symmetry. I'll flip that because it was doing the wrong way. There we go. So we have our bearded fella here. He's looking a little bit more like my concept. So now what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time and just get the shape that we want out of this hair. So my left viewport here, I'm just going to just start kind of getting some of this in where I want it to be. It's probably looking kind of funky from other viewports, so I gotta make sure I check that out in a little bit too. Not too worried about where the horns come out right now. A lot of that work will be done in Mudbox. Some of these head details are a little messy, so I'll make sure I clean those up. I'm sure I'm ruining a lot of the stuff I did before on here, but that's okay. Like I said, we'll have to clean this up anyways. I just want my lines to be nice and smooth. It's more important than screwing up some of the stuff I did earlier on. There we go. Let's move that out here. Give him a little bit of a mullet. A little long hair, a little hockey hair, I guess. It's more like it. Okay, so let's start looking at some of the other viewports here. So let's kind of round this out a little. Nice thing about building your hair separately when going into Mudbox is we can subdivide the hair, differently by more or less amounts than we do the head. We're not constrained to sticking with both of them having to be the same, which is nice. You get a little bit of flexibility and variety that way, which is always a good thing. Alright, so some of this hair I'm just going to move a little back, just so it's not sticking just straight out like that. We'll smooth a little better, be a little bit more natural and interesting. Alright, we got some big sideburns here. I want to bring those in a little. This problem when you use extrude is kind of extrudes everything evenly, and that will usually look pretty rough. So you're going to want to go through and adjust that yourself. Make sure everything looks how you actually want it to look. Don't let the program just kind of dictate how things are going to look because you just applied a modifier. So, alright, so that's alright. I want my beard to be kind of big. That's coming up pretty good there. Alright, let's take this guy here. We're going to just kind of move him down. Not too worried about matching my my concept exactly. I'm more interested in just actually having this look good. Okay. Might throw a turbo smooth on that just to kind of see what it's looking like. It's pretty nice, nice and clean. Alright, remember, talked about quads, how we want this nice and clean, fairly even amount of detail too, which is nice. That'll help us with some mudboxing. And so let's extend the beard a little bit here. I don't want to just pull these out because I actually want to keep some of that detail in there. So I'm going to decide how big I want this beard to actually be. This actually, before I do that, this might be a good time to clean up some of these guys here. So you see we have a triangle here. We actually probably don't even need some of that detail there. There we go. So now we have a quad. Let's see here. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to think about, how you can make quads out of stuff and still have them look good and smooth well. Right, this stuff's kind of smoothing well. So you see here, because we have a triangle in that section there, it's doing a decent job smoothing it. It's not the worst, but it's not the best either. We could definitely do better on this section here. So let's try and think of where we would want this to go. So perhaps we have some of that going upwards. Let's see here. Let me remove what I did here and see if we can make this make a little bit more sense. Oh, that's definitely, there we go, that's better. Let's get some nice flow out of here. There we go, so we now have that coming down nicely. A little bit more detail to work with here too, which is always good at this stage. Really get that form how I want it to be. Alright, so we have that coming down. We have this coming across. So perhaps we want to do something with that triangle there too. Maybe we'll have this guy coming down here. Okay. Yeah, it's not bad. So now we have some nice quads. This is kind of a crappy quad. Okay. Let's see what that's looking like. There we go. That's nice and smooth. Much better flow there. Alright, so now let's take, what do we take? I don't want his beard coming all the way from the bottom, so maybe we'll just do, Maybe just do like a thin beard. I think I have a wider one here. Yeah, perhaps I'll widen this out a little bit more. Alright, bring that up a little. There we go. Extend that way. That's pretty good. So when we take these guys and just extrude that. Use my scale tool, scale that down, bring it in. I think we made ourselves some funky shapes there, but that's okay. We'll clean that up in a second here. Just turn off my symmetry. I'm going to delete these inside faces that I created. Not absolutely necessary, but it's nice to keep things clean. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Let's get this flowing nicely. Alright, let's try and match our concept a little better here. Oops. Alright, so let's see what we got going up in here. We got some kind of a weird way to end this right now. I'm not too happy with how that's going. Kind of like these guys coming over. Kind of be nice to have maybe just this coming down here, which will create a triangle there. There we go. That'll create a five-sided one over here. Alright, so I kind of added another edge here just to smooth that out a little bit, give me a little bit more to work with. And created myself some quads over here. And that way I can take this guy and just push him forward. Alright, let's see how that looks. So if you notice, I turned mesh smooth on. I'm getting this really weird double triangle here. Usually what that means is something here isn't symmetried over enough, and it's not welding the verts properly. So just make sure that's all nice and tight, cleaned up. Sometimes it's nice to work with mesh smooth on because then you kind of get to see what your stuff will look like, but it can be very dangerous too because you can do some really messy things without knowing that you're actually screwing your mesh up really badly. So be careful with that. I don't really recommend you do that too early on anyways. Now if you notice here, let's just take a look at this quickly. We have some, like, you know, generally similar types of detail here. And then here it gets a little tighter, and then these guys here are just a little too open. There's just not enough detail, so I'm just going to give this a nice cut through right here. And just change up the shape a little. That way when I turbo smooth this or I subdivide it in Mudbox, it'll look a little bit more even. There we go. Now if we take our guy here and turn on that. So, you know, it's starting to look pretty good. You might notice that as you move around, your beard is floating a little bit because sometimes you moved around some verts and things like that and they don't quite match up anymore. So you might want to go through and just sync some of that in a little bit. It's not a huge deal at this point because, again, we're going to be going into Mudbox and adjusting these characters quite heavily. But it's still good to know that your stuff fits well and works as you intended. So right now, just having this stuff intersect is totally cool because we're just going to be using this to bake out some maps and stuff like that. So you can get away with some of this stuff. Obviously for a low poly this would not be a very good idea because it wouldn't perform really well and all that jazz, but like I said, we're going to make another low poly once we're done, and it'll all be one piece, the hair and the face and all that, so we won't have to deal with any of that. There we go. Again, make sure the stuff is nicely stitched. Alright, just go through your mesh and just check to make sure everything is as you want it to be. There we go. So we have our dude here. He's starting to look a little similar. This guy looks a lot more gruff than this guy. But that's alright. That's exactly what Mudbox is going to be for. And adjust a couple other things here. I'm going to add a couple details. Just smooth out my beard a little bit more. Back of my hair here is just kind of a little boring too. Gonna bring that out a little bit more. Again, a little bit more of that hockey hair kind of look. There we go, just a few little adjustments, and that's that. So again, the eyebrows and things like that we'll paint in. Same with the mustache, I'm not going to bother modeling like a full mustache for that. He's got kind of more stubble than like a really big bearded kind of mustache. If I want, what I can do, if I just want to match my character up a little bit better, I can select a couple. It's not going to look very good, but if I just want to have some fun, I could just do that. There we go, look at that little mustache. Looks terrible. But anyways, I'm going to undo that because it looks silly. But yeah, so that's kind of your beginnings of your head. If you have any other details for your character that you want to add, feel free to just add them, you know, a piece at a time. And we could always add things as we make it into Mudbox and stuff like that. But if you want to add like a nose ring or something like that, right, you could totally do that. So if we wanted to add, actually no, not a tube, which one is torus? Alright, well, if I wanted to add a couple little details, I could. Let's say my dude, actually, let's say he had like a bull kind of earring or nose ring. Alright, totally start adding stuff like that. Oh, it's kind of huge. Alright, so think about interesting things you could add to your character to kind of spruce them up. I'm not going to add a nose ring because it looks kind of silly. All that kind of stuff. So you could add, you know, whatever else you need to your character. If he's a robot, add all the little bits to him. As much, you know, kind of broad detail as you can add right now, the better. So obviously, like the hair, we want to model that up later on. So I've added that in. You know, any kind of like skin type things like wrinkles and again eyebrows, things like that. I'm going to add all in Mudbox, so I won't have to worry about that right now. So really think about things that like change the silhouette that you want to add at this point. And again, we'll be retoppling this character, make another little poly. So you know, my hair is not exactly this shape, right, in the model, and that's totally fine. I'm going to adjust all of that in the high poly, and that's fine. So the last thing I'm going to add here is just my horns. Just going to add, where are you here? Cone. There we go. Let's add that here. Right, so I'll show you a quick and easy way of doing some of this stuff. So I'll adjust his rotation eventually. First I'm just going to get that nice shape there. Too many sides right now. I'm going to just lower this to maybe like 12 or something. Throw in a bunch more height segments. Something that I think will smooth out well. I'm going to add a bunch of detail in here later on. So I'm actually just going to use the bend modifier just to bend this to kind of like a shape that I like. Oh. Doesn't have to be, you know, perfectly exact. That's more or less kind of what I want. I might want it a little bit bigger. Yeah, a little stubbier like that. And then I'm just going to rotate it. Alright, I might even add like a secondary bend on here and just bend it in like a different direction. So if I just wanted to bend it something like that. Depends, might not get quite the look I want exactly out of that, so I'll do a couple other little tricks here. So I'm just going to kind of mush them into the head right now. I'm not too worried about that. In Mudbox, I'm going to take this hair and ruffle it up around this guy. It might not be the greatest the way we're doing it right now, just kind of having these polys all intersect each other at like weird angles. It might be kind of hard to get that tuft up there, but I think it should be okay. You know, if you really want to spend the time, you could model out a hole in the hair and kind of make all your quads go around this nicely. It will make your job a little bit easier. But I'm going to kind of see how it works out with just doing it the way I'm doing it right now. So let's do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse this guy to an edible poly. I'm going to delete this bottom face here because I don't want that smoothing in. I'm also going to delete any any polygons that you can't see. Those guys. Alright, I think that's my last one. There you go, so I'll just leave it at that. And if I turbo smooth him, you know, he's a little pointy right now. We can definitely adjust that later on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy him. I'm going to rotate him over. So these guys are actually going to be different horns. I'm going to have a smaller and a bigger horn. On my model. So I will actually have to model two separate horns if I want them to look different. I want them to be asymmetrical too, in texture as well. So I don't mind certain things being symmetrical, but definitely on the head you want to spend some time making it look right. There's a couple things I could do here just to change them up if I want at this point. I could use some of my tools up in here under freeform. I could use my push and pull tool. Just lower my size here a little. Actually, I'm not going to use my shift tool here. I can hold control to make my circle bigger and smaller, and I'm just going to just kind of adjust some of this just so it's not a perfect tube. You know, horns grow at random kind of things here. I'm going to stubby them up a little as well. Right. This is stuff that I can do in Mudbox as well, but you know, while I'm here, why not spend some time and actually do this correctly? Kind of get the look I want as soon as possible. There we go. There we go. I want them to have some interesting shapes there too. Don't want them exactly just to be tubes. There we go. Alright, so we got our dude here. He's looking alright. I think he's going to be pretty close to ready for Mudbox. I mean, on the head wise anyway. So it's kind of what you should have at the end of your head poly modeling stage here. So next we'll move on to the body. We're going to just do just the general body, and then we'll add all these elements separately. So we'll add the pants, the belts, the buckles, armor, all that kind of stuff. The straps I'll probably just leave for Mudbox because they're pretty skin tight, and so we'll do that. Next I'll have an ear. If you have an ear tutorial, you can follow that along, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.